So I'm maybe a little bit different from most, in that a lot of my contemporaries were going to London first. I was actually still a student, so I was at the University of Otago, and yeah, I was about to complete my final year. So I studied law and business marketing. So I had sort of one year left on my, or semester maybe, on my law degree, and I had another full sort of honours year left on my marketing degree. And the dean of the business school at that time was part French, a guy called David Buisson, and he had just established a relationship with a business school in Paris, which is quite well renowned, called HEC. And I had this real, I guess, a bit of a dream of spending time in France, Paris particularly, and they'd put, one of those scholarship programs in place. So I sort of took advantage of that, and I actually went off to Paris. So I finished that year of studies between this business school in Paris and a law school in Lyon in central France. And I kind of fell in love with all things French, and was really determined to spend more time in France. So I actually ended up getting my first job in Paris, and I lived there for 4 years. So that was my starting point, actually, and then I guess I sort of kept my mind quite open and lived my life quite sort of opportunistically, and sort of went where opportunities took me, particularly career-wise, and that actually led me down to South Africa of all places. So I was sent out down there on a work project, and then while I was down there, I got really involved in sort of the sports world, sports marketing. So working with Under Armour, the American sports apparel business. So that brand was really just in its infancy and growing just at an extraordinary rate. So it was really exciting. So I headed up their marketing on the Southern African continent. And then I've actually, I loved it, but I've been there a couple of years, and I was just really itching to get back to either Europe, or I started considering the UK, and then there was the recession. And I still remember that picture of sort of Lehman Brothers, and I'd actually just resigned from my job and decided that I was going to London, and then all of this kicked off. I was like, oh heck, might not be the best time to relocate. And I was very lucky, a great role came up with FIFA on the 2010 World Cup in Johannesburg. So I actually did that role for the duration of that project, which was plus or minus 2 years. And then an opportunity came up with Under Armour in London, actually working between London and Amsterdam, which was the European HQ. And I was given that job. So that's sort of my entry really into London and the UK. And at that point, I'd been away. I've been away close to 10 years already. And I think my headspace was, because I did consider returning to New Zealand at that time, because I'd always sort of said to myself, I'll be away plus or minus 10 years, and then I'll come back to NZ. But I think I'd probably become very accustomed to living this kind of life where I'm mixing in very international networks, different cultures, speaking a different language, and I just wanted more of that. And I think London obviously made sense on a career level. But I think just in terms of fueling that desire to really engage with, see more, and, engage with other cultures and continue to learn, and also to advance my career in a big competitive market, was very appealing to me. So those were really the primary drivers, I guess, for making that move to London. And I mean, it really did deliver on all of those promises, plus some. Huge amount of pluses, and I really encourage anyone watching this to take the plunge and just do it. I just think we have one life, and I'm all about really personal growth and discovery and expansion. And you're expanding your world, I think, when you get, whether it's London or somewhere else, I think getting outside of your comfort zone, putting yourself into unfamiliar and much bigger environments can only develop you as a person. And there's huge benefits of that. And inevitably there'll be occasions where it's a bit of an uphill slog. Certainly career-wise, I mean, I was obviously lucky in that I had a bit of an inroad due to a previous work experience. I think London is notoriously quite difficult, I think, just for getting that first job. I don't think it's difficult to get work at all, but I think to really land your dream job, so to speak, you probably do need to approach that with a realistic lens and understand that you need a little bit of experience, even just sort of 6 to 12 months under your belt first, doing something that's probably not your dream job, just in order to have that recognition of having worked in the UK and having some initial experience. And then from there, it becomes much easier, I think, with recruiters to start sort of progressing your career, really down a path that excites you. And so I think that would probably be a potential, call it a negative or a bit of a challenge. And yeah, something that anyone moving to London probably needs to just keep a realistic mindset about, and appreciate that it's going to really take time. But the benefits are just so immense. And just personally as well, friendship groups. I've got such an international friendship of friends. I'm about to go traveling, as I mentioned to you earlier, and I'm going also to several countries in Europe, and I literally am staying with friends pretty much the entire way. I have people everywhere, and that's what London gives you, right? It's just the introductions to so many great people, different cultures, different languages, different backgrounds, different perspectives and points of view on things, and that just opens your mind. Family was really the main driver for me. I come from a very close family. I've got 2 younger sisters who are really my best friends. And yeah, I'm very close to my parents as well. And I mean, I've come back to New Zealand every year. I've had a month plus or minus over Christmas, New Year period every year. That's been real family time, but inevitably it's never enough. Never enough time. And I think COVID probably was an opportunity, I guess, just to reassess how I was living my life. And I was doing a lot of travel prior to COVID for work. I was covering for my job, I was covering Northern Europe, so the UK, Scandinavia, the Benelux countries. So I was really on a plane every other week, which was great, but it also does take its toll, I guess. Constantly being on the road, and yeah, I just had a real desire, I think, to reconnect with my homeland. I didn't come back with a really fixed point of view on it. I think a lot of people probably do. There's almost a sense of closing the door on their old life and saying, my OE, so to speak, has come to an end, and it's a forever decision. And that's just not how I approach my life in general. I sort of see life as a series of chapters, really, and you do different things, different chapters. And for me, this chapter has really been about my family, and also just work-wise as well. I think I've always, for a long time, entertained the idea of having my own business. I thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity to step off the corporate bandwagon, and just explore some new ideas. And that's sort of what led me into the tech startup space here, which I found to be really fulfilling and pretty interesting, actually. And I've learned a lot. And bizarrely, I've also had the opportunity from here to explore a new market, which has been the United States, by consulting to a company that's commercializing a product there. And if you'd said to me, and coming back to NZ, that's what I'd be doing, and that was the experience that I would have, I probably would have struggled to believe that, I think. So it just shows that, whilst New Zealand is an isolated nation and it's very small, there's also some pretty exciting things happening here. And I think you shape your own experience, right? You seek out those opportunities which interest you, and who knows where they might lead you. So it's been great. To answer the latter part of your question, I've been back now, how long has it been? Probably a year and a half. And it's been really, really marvelous. A lot of really quality family time. Spent a lot of time down south, my roots, rather than sort of Queenstown, Lake Wanaka region. Pitching a tent with my partner and hanging out with friends, and yeah, camping and doing all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah, so your first question, how has New Zealand changed? I question, this might not be right, but I do think that's why this interview is also important, to really promote the benefits of getting offshore and out of one's comfort zone and doing these things and having these adventures. Because I have a bit of a perception that the younger generations now aren't necessarily doing it the way that we did. That they're possibly, and there's also nothing wrong with this either. I mean, again, this is very much just how one chooses to live one's own life. But they possibly are living life in more of a linear way, and really, they stay in New Zealand and they build their career here and they go on to have their family. And whereas I think for my age group, it really just went without saying that we would go, we would travel, and we would have these experiences. And I think that probably has more profound effects, right? Like over time, that really probably shapes the country, I think. That's just a perception, so that might be completely unfounded. But perhaps with COVID as well, there's more of an inclination now just to stay, rooted in one place. And I think for a country like New Zealand, it's really important that we travel and that we get away and we do these things, because the risk otherwise is that you could end up living your life in a little bit of a bubble. And whilst it might be a very happy bubble, you're not necessarily going to open your mind and expand your world and challenge yourself and develop yourself the same way that you would if you seized those more challenging opportunities. To answer your second question, why would I go away again? Yeah, I mean, it's multifaceted, really. My hope, honestly, is to be able to spend more time in New Zealand. I'd like to have a really great base here, a lovely home, and actually be able to divide my time. That's really the dream. But I am very early stages of building my own business, and I aspire to have a global brand. And I think in order to do that, I can do a lot from here, but there will come a point where I will need to head off again, I would expect, whether that be London, which would be an easy move for me, or potentially somewhere else. My partner, Chris, also has a very international background. He actually works in the oil and gas industry as an engineer. So that sort of throws another ball into the air as well, just in terms of offshore opportunities and various other things. But yeah, as I said, my mind is pretty open, and I'm never really closing doors on things. So it's just, I guess following my heart to a certain extent and pursuing my passions on a career level and life in general, and seeing where it all leads.